I'm joined by International Grandmaster and FIDE Chief Executive Officer since 2022, Emil Sutovsky. Emil, good morning and thank you for coming to the interview.
Hi, Michael.
Emil, as a player, you went over 2,700 in 2012, but now you're basically just playing a few games each year and your main role is being Chief Executive Officer of FIDE. You were FIDE Director General 2018-2022. Tell us about your new role in FIDE since last year and what did your job entail and the difference with being a Director General?
Thank you. Good question. Actually, I kept doing more or less the same scope, but it's just more responsibility because we have now more, the scope of activities is wider. And then I have to take various decisions, which is, let's say, which my present position reflects more because Director General is a bit more vague descriptions than CEO. And obviously, most of the decisions are related to the commercial side and professional side of the competitions, because as you know, fully aware of, FIDE does both the professional part and the social and educational. So I'm more focused on a part which has to do with the, let's say, commercial part of it, professional broadcasting, but also I'm in charge for all major FIDE events like World Championships, World Cups, and so on, Olympiad. Of course, the responsibility is huge. FIDE is growing, the number of our competition is growing, and our team also has expanded to that effect. I hope that the results which we bring are well felt in the chess community.
So precisely, we're here in Baku. We're in the trophy room, wonderful surroundings in the World Cup 2023. As you know, the World Cup was originally planned for South Korea, but finally came to Baku. And I know that your personal and professional involvement was key, was fundamental in bringing it here. Tell me about how it came that we started off with South Korea and then we ended up in Baku, and how did the bid come about?
Right. Well, we had negotiations with South Korea throughout 2022. And basically during the Olympiad in Chennai, they announced publicly that they're going to submit a bid. And for us, it would be great if South Korea really emerged as another major player on the chess map. As you know, we try to develop it and to stage it in as many countries and continents where possible. And of course, South Korea is an important strategical region where we'd be happy to host an event like World Cup or similar. At the same time, while we were expecting them to submit a bid, it took more and more time. And when the deadline came, nothing official has been submitted. And we were in parallel also in talks with Baku. As you know, I hail from the city. I was born in Baku, and my first chess, you can't call it a partner, but serious chess player I met and played with was none else than Garry Kasparov himself. We lived at the same street. I mean, literally the same street, literally 100 yards away. And I remember visiting him when I was 5 or 6, and so on. We played the games. Of course, he was already top player, and I was just a kid. And it was an inspiration for me. But anyways, and since then, I of course, I left Baku for over 30 years ago already. My family and me, we moved to Israel, but the ties remained, and I think it was also noticeable throughout previous years when I was a player and later as a coach. I helped young Azeri players and all the generation of young Azeri players from Rajabov and down basically at one stage or another, they were my students. Yeah. So I kept this good contact with the local federation, and we did organize some projects before, but here when the idea to stage World Cup has emerged, I came to Baku in advance to have negotiations before, to meet the sport minister who supported the idea, and then we managed to organize a meeting with the president of the country, Mr. Aliyev, and of course FIDE President Arkady Dvorkovich led the FIDE delegation. I've also been a part of it, And the decision was taken. I think it's very natural that Baku, with its vast chess tradition, strong players, typically there was men's squad from Baku who was known for that, but in recent years, ladies from Baku also have progressed enormously. They made it top 5 in Olympiad. So it was a natural choice, and I think it was a good decision, and the level of organization is something we're pleased about.
That's my third question. So, of course, now we're going into the fourth round. We're about to finish the third round here, which is halfway through. Is the tournament running to expectations from what you've seen? Would you have changed anything, or is there anything important, relevant that you're thinking, or you're already going, this might be changed for the next World Cup? Or is everything running as planned? In general terms, of course, there's always small details that have to be solved day to day.
No, in general, I'm happy. I think the event itself is unique for chess, a combination of very top players participating at, let's say, absolute world top, but also an opportunity from representatives from many countries. There are over 90 countries here taking part, and the champions are participating. And we see, for example, first time ever Indonesian player qualified to top 16. It's already something very meaningful, and hopefully can boost interest in the chess in a country. And at the same time is a top professional competition. FIDE brought a huge team here to help local organizers. Previously that was not a practice, but we have, for a few years now, we have been doing it in order to secure the highest possible level of organization. So we bring our own team of over 30 people here. It's a long event, it's 4 weeks event. It requires a lot of preparation in every regards. To improve, obviously, always you can look and find the ways to improve. I think one major area when we will try to invest more and improve is making the games themselves more spectacular on screen. Maybe other approaches, more sophisticated approaches to broadcasting it, because we have been improving the quality of a broadcast, but the format of broadcast remains the same throughout, let's say, 20 years chess has been started to be broadcast. And I think we can do a lot about it. It's an investment, and maybe a major investment, but I think in order to go up to the next level, that's what's required.
Some critics say that 3 candidate spots for the World Cup might be too much. Do you agree with that?
It's difficult to balance it. Look, it's a knockout event, but let's not forget there is a opinion by many players, and even Magnus added that the format of knockout should be even qualify to world champion. I mean, the winner should become a world champion, or at least a challenger. So I think the balance is here. The event is a grueling event, and you are really have to show your best and to get into top 3. What the right balance is very difficult to say. Let's say we have Grand Swiss on Isle of Man in October, November, amazing event. And some say, okay, it's just a Swiss event, just 11 rounds. Why 2 spots is there? In general, my feeling is that chess community is always striving to find a perfect solution for everything. And it's always difficult to know what is a perfect solution. I mean, you have to balance it in a smooth way in order to have it both fair from the sportive point of view, but also, let's say, to provide some sort of opportunities. So it's question of balance. I think 3 out of it is not too much, because if we would have selected only, let's say, round-robin events which are traditional, like FIDE or Stavanger, and so on, it also would be too elitist, which we don't want to do.
It has its own challenges.
Yeah, if we would have selected only by ratings, then it's also, you have your previous results. The rating system in chess built in this way that your previous results have a lot of weight. Yeah. So it's also not ideal. So we have a nice combination. I think we also started this year with the FIDE circuit, so throughout the year, if you play good tournaments and you amass these points which allow you to qualify. And also the World Cup has included all the best events, including World Cup, are included in the system. So it is, I think, I've been talking to nearly every top 10 player, 80% of the top players. And in general, they're pretty satisfied about the model. I think it is reasonably balanced.
That's refreshing. Another question regarding chess events, and this might connect with the comment you've made before on the broadcast. We have the Global Chess League in Dubai very recently, a joint project between FIDE and Tech Mahindra, and now we have the World Teams in Düsseldorf, another joint project between our WR Logistics and FIDE. Is this the way to go for the future, trying to make joint projects with big partners and sponsors, and also the new dynamics in the broadcast that we saw in Dubai, for example? But this is good for rapid chess, but can we use this can we make classical chess more spectacular without crossing a line of seriousness, which is something that I'm always worrying about? What would you say?
It's always a question. Where you draw this red line, where you draw the line at all. FIDE is, our role is very responsible. We have to be guardians of the game, but we cannot afford ourselves to be stuck in the past. So it's always we've got to experiment with these things, and it's not a coincidence that we have all these new formats. It has never been before. Look, we tried World Team Championship is played with a faster 45 plus 10 seconds increment. So it's like semi-classic. Now we have this Mahindra Tech League, which is rapid. We have World Rapid Teams now starting in Düsseldorf just in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah. So what is important. I mean, it's very easy being big organization just to enjoy what we have. We have World Championship, which always has a good organizers and brings a lot of attention. We have Chess Olympiad, we have World Cup, but we always experiment with new formats. We see that there is a request and demand from chess community for something like that. So we try. It's difficult to say, and it's also a question of chicken and egg. I mean, if you create something which would be appealing probably for TV networks, that's nice. But you wouldn't want to ruin something before building something big. And in general, classics, it's no wonder that World Championship matches and classical formats still find the biggest sponsorship. It's no wonder because in the contemporary world, chess still retains this unique feeling of being something, let's say, special, sharp minds. It's not necessarily about speed of it, but about tradition, about reputation, about many companies still keep using chess and chess-related topics in their commercials. So it's very, very narrow margins we have to play with. But again, just sitting on laurels and claiming, okay, we're the ancient game which is still played and so on, we are not going to do that. But we always, when we experiment, we cannot and we don't want to start with our major events. We start with, let's say, top events, but not the top events to see how it goes, what's public opinion about that, how chess professionals react to that, what's the general, if it brings new audiences, yes. Because we have some sort of hardcore chess audience which would watch any major chess event. Mm-hmm. The question, if we are appealing or trying to be appealing to wider audiences, how we do that without ruining what we have and without having let's say a revolution in chess. Evolution is okay, but we have to be to advance very cautiously.
Let's talk about the Toronto candidates. So this will be held in April. It's still a few months ago. Of course, many players still to be decided. But at least in my understanding, it's the first time in recent times where both women and open events will be held at the same time, at least in recent times. This is a new decision, and I'd like you to comment why was this decision made, what reasoning is behind having the two at the same time, and also if there are any conversations with Magnus Carlsen, is he considering to come back and play? First, let's talk about the reasoning behind holding the two events at the same time in Toronto.
Yeah, it is for the first time, not in recent, but just the first time to have the candidates together, men and women. In generally, what we saw in recent years, that in spite of our numerous efforts, increasing prize funds, improving the conditions of play, improving the coverage of the events and so on, we saw that women's candidates did not attract as much attention as men's candidates. or men, you say men, but it's open, right? I mean,
Of course.
it should be understood when you use. So it's very important to distinguish that our aim here is to try and get the event under one roof in order to get all the publicity, also covering female competition. It's very important because we are not trying just to conduct and just to raise prices artificially. We want to get into the situation when women's candidates or women's world championship would have a real market price of a standard. We constantly look for these solutions because we experimented with various formats and ways. We actually basically align the system, the qualifying system for a part of the Grand Prix cycle, which exists in women's chess but doesn't exist in men's because Open is very, very tight, and it's very difficult to even to find place for more tournaments. So in open event of the kind in 24 and women's event, we will have 8 players both playing at the same venue, and we hope that the massive coverage which we expect to be there, yes. And actually let's not forget. Also the place, Toronto, Canada. In Toronto, you hadn't had major events since 1988. So it would be huge. And we also count on the event benefiting from the fact that a lot of streamers are coming from North America and particularly Canada itself. So we see it as a chance to promote women's chess, to promote our best players, because up to date, we have many men leading players who have large fan base, and we basically have very few top female players who would know a lot about them, who follow the games, the interviews, and so on. So that's an opportunity to go.
Okay, that sounds good. And the Carlsen thing, is there any commentary there? Has there been any conversations? He is here playing in the World Cup. He wants to win it. That's clear.
Yeah, Magnus obviously wants to win any event he participates in. I would say. If you ask me, I think Carlsen himself doesn't know if he will play or not.
Not even himself, yeah. He would get the rating spot, most probably.
He is very likely to get...
Or qualifying here, of course.
Yeah, he is very likely to qualify by one of the means, either through this event or by getting there's one rating spot. I think that probability of his playing is much more than 1%, which was indicated elsewhere by him earlier this year. I don't know how you measure this percentage, by the way. Right. I mean, it's like very difficult to...
Unlikely, but not impossible, we would say?
Yeah, at least like that. I mean, honestly, we see Magnus still being in love with the game.
Yeah.
And what could be more thrilling, more exciting?
And coming back and winning the candidates, no?
Candidates. Also,
crushing the candidates.
Also,
even.
Candidates is a sort of a tournament which is very... challenging. In a way, I would say winning candidates is not less a hit than winning a match.
Tata Steel or...
even the World Championship match. Because World Championship match, you have to overcome one player who can be on his tour.
8 players, double round. I mean, it's not
right.
easy.
Right, so here you have to overcome 7 top players. Now, obviously, when there is a dominating champion like Carlsen, beating him is a bigger fit than winning candidates. But otherwise, let's say, it's very challenging, and I would not exclude Magnus playing. But again, it's too early to say, and I think he would take the decision only when the time will arrive. Of course, we would be very happy if he decides to play, because that would make the event with absolutely all the best.
Of course.
That would make also the attention to the event much higher, because press, they love all these comeback stories. But in general, I don't think we would know that before the end of December.
Emil, let's talk about rating. This is an important question, because it's something that everyone wants to know about, the rating system. So for many years already, we're seeing, basically when the K40 was introduced and the rating floor went down, we're seeing some cases of especially kids who can increase their rating in a short period of time, a huge amount of points. There's unbelievable cases like an Indian player that just went from 2,000 and a bit to nearly 2,500 in a space of 3 months. So Mr. Sonas, an important theoretician, has done some proposal rating regulations which may come into play on the 1st of January. He's suggesting an increase of up to 400 points for everyone below 2,000 in incremental stages, and also to elevate the rating floor from 1,000 to 1,400. First of all, do you agree with the proposal? Do you think it's a step in the correct direction? And tell us a bit about why this is happening, and if you think this will go forward, because this is a major change to all players watching this interview that have a rating below 2,000. It's a very important change.
Yes, we have been addressing it for quite a long time, because what we see now, you actually started with an example of someone going 500 points.
Yes, unbelievable.
But the problem is exactly the opposite. The problem is that the deflation in the chess world is staggering. You have thousands and thousands of strong players who start so lowly with their ratings that they basically, the numbers do not reflect their real strength. What Jeff Sonas did and what we asked him to do, he basically compared the actual results, actual data from every rating batch to see if they are reflecting the expected score. Let's say if I'm a player of 2,600 and I'm playing a player of 2,200, I'm expected to score 92% of points. And he simply started with measuring whether it's indeed a fact. Whether 2,600 while playing 2,200 indeed scored 92%. In each of these rating batches play thousands or even tens of thousands games between each other, so the data is already pretty much reflective. So what he found that in every single batch, you do not have the results which are expected to be. 2,600 does not score 92%, let's say, but score 88%. If a player of 2,100 plays against 1,600, he is not scoring 99% like he is expecting, who would be expected, but he scores only 91%. So, which means that there is the correlation between real strengths of the player and its rating is missing. It's missing mostly on the lower level. The lower you go, the bigger is the gap between the mathematical expectation and the real data which shows. Now, this has to be addressed. That's why one of the ideas is to raise the rating floor.
To raise the rating floor, of course. To close the gap again.
Yes. Another question, whether the K factor should remain as high, because to prevent such a jumps. But that's relatively minor compared to this problem. It's two different questions. Mm-hmm. And now, my opinion is that we should go for that. There's no way not to go. The question if it should go, let's say, 400 points or 300 or 200 points.
That's a mathematical question,
Let's say mathematically, maybe he's correct to go with 400 points, but there are other things which have to be considered. Titles, for example. Immediate change, because it would cause an inflation.
Yes.
We saw deflation for such a long time. Now he wants to compensate for it in one go. A question if we should go immediately compensating or slowly.
Or maybe spread the points out in several months, for example, no?
Not months, even maybe years, if so, because...
but these are technical decisions that can be analyzed.
Yeah, but they are important, and they are very difficult to measure also, because one thing which people neglect and do not take into account, in general, that's what happens in many spheres, but also here, that every decision has many variables. It's not 2 or 3 variables, just rating, K factor, and so on. There's so many various variables to be taken, parameters to be taken into account. Let's say, if a player has a 1,400, and he is Indian, as you put, and he is Indian 10 years boy, or girl, is much more likely that he is underrated, that if he has 1,600, but he comes from a different continent, and different age group. If he is 50 years old European who is 1700. And the number of games, because probably the guy who is younger, he plays more games because he's just getting engaged. And the guy who is older, maybe he's just an amateur player from a club who plays 10 games a year in his for his club, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So these variables also has to be measured, and it's not easy.
It seems very difficult.
To streamline, it's always impossible. My take is rather simple. We always, as I repeatedly say, in chess, we look for the absolutely perfect solution. No perfect solution here. I think we should take a decision, take a measured decision, balanced decision, to see how it reflects on the community, how players feel about it, how if it doesn't lead to some sort of explosive inflation, so on, and then to adjust. There is no huge drama if in 1 year we would see that, okay, the K factor should be not 40 and not 20, but 30. And if the rating floor, maybe it will raise it to 1200, now maybe starting next year 1300. I think the simplest would be just to take one decision and to stick to it and to protect it. And we often are getting criticized that FIDE changes this with the interest. I think that's actually the smart thing, to change and to adjust and to think what can be done better. It's much easier to, we're FIDE, we can decide and go. That's not the way to go. We actually are listening to it. We hear many proposals, ideas, and of course we can't be perfect. The chess community in general has so various interests. They're professionals, they're kids, they're amateur players, those who come from traditional chess countries, where they have very limited chess lives, those who participate mainly in opens, those who participate only in round robins, or mostly in round robins. And let's say when we try to resolve any question, we would have to think how it will affect all the community.
And all the communities. Yeah.
And it's very difficult. And as well, we as FIDE are working non-stop, and I'm really proud of our team. But it's impossible to cover it at the same level of perfectionism or even efficiency, all the aspects, because chess is huge. It's really played by millions. So you got few areas where you focus, but still you cannot focus all your best minds, resources, experiences on all the areas. You still will have to somewhere to focus more than others. We do our best. In general, I think we succeed.
That's a great note to finish the conversation on. Emil, most people know you now as a chess politician, but many of them forget that you're a 2700 player with a slightly lower rating now, of course, because when you stop playing, your rating goes down. And also you love to play e4, which is your favorite move. My final question for you. I was talking to Vichy the other day, and of course Vichy's a legend. I mean, one of the best players of the world, of the history for me as well. And he was saying, I still enjoy playing, but I don't enjoy losing, which is something that happens more to us when we get older. Do you still feel the urge, the vibes when you see the top players playing to go out there and fight? Or do you prefer to take a more relaxed point of view now? Do you still enjoy playing longer games? Do you still enjoy playing blitz? What's your situation as a chess player now?
I do play chess occasionally. I play for my team in Israel 10, 11 games per year. That's the only classical chess I can afford to myself. Basically, obviously I could take a week off and to play some tournament, but I wouldn't play it well because I'm rusty. I haven't been doing any serious preparation. And, after you were almost a top player, okay, at least I was for 20 years top 100
player. I mean,
okay, 2700 occasionally, but most of my career above 2650.
That's an elite chess player.
Sort of. I wouldn't feel good playing
underperforming.
I understand. Yeah, and so if I can't afford myself to prepare properly, I would not like to do. I still enjoy enormously following the games and analyzing here, for example, in foyer with great players. The other day when the tiebreaks were with
I saw it. It was very exciting.
With Peter Swidler and analyzing it, it was a pleasure. I do play blitz competitions rarely. mostly when it's a memorial of some person who is
Yes.
dear to my heart. I even helped organizing a couple of those. And I played maybe 2-3 for people who I not only I knew, because I knew many people, but I loved and cherished, and that would be a sort of a tribute. But all in all, I think in the chess world, yeah, young generation probably wouldn't know already that I was a player of top 20, but I can live with that. Yeah, I think I had rather successful career in chess, not only rating-wise, because rating-wise maybe, but I won like maybe something like 40 big tournaments. So
and some very memorable games. For example, your game with Sweden, it's one of the most memorable. Like, some very attacking, very good games. Some Sicilian defenses where you with white pieces, you were very, very strong, very strong. You are very strong. Okay.
Thank you. But I don't have any, let's say, regrets or something like that I quit too early. No, I think for me, it's important that my contribution to chess is meaningful. And I think that we, not only me, but we as a team at FIDE, we managed to do a lot to make chess society better, to provide more opportunities, to provide incentives for players to improve, and in every regard. And I think that is very important. And nowadays, the world is like, many people are talking, very few are doing. We're doing things, and you could see it by the number of tournaments, by the prize money, by the programs, social programs, by the possibility of kids for all over the world to study with the best for free, which we created as FIDE. And it's very important. And I think chess has a bright future, and I'm happy if I can contribute to that.
Emil, thank you very much.
Thank you.